Thank you for joining us on Daily Politics, reaching you live from Trust TV here in Nigeria, Abuja, Nigeria's capital. My name is Shafiu Suleiman, and I'm sitting in for your regular host, Suleiman, who is not disposed at the moment due to certain operational exigencies. As you are aware, this is a platform where we discuss politics, policy, and governance. And today, we'll be looking at one of the developments in our polity, that is the emergence or the entrance of Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Osinbajo, into the presidential race. After months of speculations and suspense, he finally officially declares to run, for the office of the president. To succeed his principal, talking about President Muhammadu Buhari, on the same platform, the All Progressives Congress. Now, the vice president did declare shortly after he had a meeting with some APC governors, and of course, a few days after one of the cabinet members also talking about the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has also declared, to vie for the #1 seat. Already, reactions are beginning to trail, his declaration to contest the #1 seat, talking about the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On the sideline of his declaration, the vice president also made certain promises to Nigerians, about 12 in number. So we'll be looking at all of these issues on Daily Politics this evening. And I have personalities here with me in the studio who together will be looking at how this political development perhaps will change the dynamics in politics, especially in the All Progressives Congress, the APC, and of course by extension the Nigerian polity. This is a big masquerade, some will say. We're talking about the #2 citizen, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, even though there are many others who have also threw their heart in the race. And so we'll be looking at all of that. I have in the studio Dr. Jeff Chize Ojinika, a former House of Representatives member, joining us for the discussion. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. And well done, Nigerians.
Yes, I also have Dr. Yunusa Tanko, another prominent personality, a politician, a political activist, some will say, combines politics and activism, the national chairman of the National Conscience Party. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. And Ramadan Kareem to our brothers and sisters in Islam.
Right. Okay, let's go straight into the, let me get by getting a job, reaction to the decision but this is something that many have been expecting anyway, even though there were, sort of denials in the past, but then he made it official now by declaring to contest for the presidency. Did it come to you as a surprise, or how do you react to it?
Well, I'll first and foremost start by congratulating the Vice President, Professor Osinbajo, for coming out to make a declaration to run. It's in full exercise of his democratic right as a citizen and as a member of a political party, having served as Attorney General in Lagos State for 8 years and serving as a Vice President and a Professor of Law. He is entitled to his democratic right to make himself available.
That's right.
And democracy is all about choice. So what I think he has done is to make the members of his political party have a lot of choice to look at. The greatest word in the world is the word if. The word if, you can use it to make more than 10 million sentences. And that word if is if this, if that, if this, if that. So I'm sure he has just basically come out to increase the number of the word if. if this, if that, if this.
Right.
So, and if you also ask me, I can rightly say that in exercise of his democratic right, he has come out openly to enunciate what he feels informs his aspiration.
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly. Dr. Satanko, yes, it's his constitutional right, to contest. He is eminently qualified as a Nigerian, and by extension, someone of his pedigree and so on. So, but there have been issues, concerning the morality, if you like, or otherwise of such a decision. He is certainly, contesting against his benefactor, his mentor, political mentor, and so on. This has been, some concerns from some quarters. But we are in politics, we are in a democracy, everyone is free, to make a choice. How are you looking at that?
Well, while it is constitutionally or is a constitutional right to declare for the post of a president, which of course he has a right to, but for me, I feel there are moral ineptitude and inefficiency that will have made the vice president not to have declared. And these are my reasons. First of all, it's either we as Nigerians, people take us for a ride, or they look at our ignorance, political ignorance, and then continue to push us to the wall.
How do you mean?
Exactly. Number one, Mr. Vice President declared to run for the office of the president. It may look funny, using the shield of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He stood under the shield of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and declared that he wants to run for the office of the president.
But what is wrong with that?
Fantastically wrong.
How?
Well, because he is using his office as a basis of his office to address the people, not using himself as an individual belonging to a political party. Most of the developed world, even the president himself, even when he wants to go on a rerun, he's not supposed to use the shield of the president. He's supposed to use maybe his own acronym or what he wants to sell to the people. You saw Obama, you saw Angela Marcos, you saw Boris. All while it's either they want to use the
Are you contesting the use of the office?
Yes, I'm using number one, I'm using that particular force. Then secondly, Mr. Vice President served with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
He's still serving.
He's still serving. And they are using a joint ticket. And Mr. Vice President said he was going to advance or advance on the gains.
We'll talk about that.
So morally and constitutionally and everything, he has a right to run. But morally, Mr. Vice President do not have that particular right. In fact, it's an insult on the integrity of the Nigerian people for Mr. Vice President to say he wants to run. Yes, I was part of the people that supported him at a particular point in time. But for this, is an unjust. And
are you perhaps expecting him to resign before he declared his ambition to run? Is that what you're saying?
Those are part of the things that are contained in the new Electoral Act. Of course, maybe it has a time limit. It has a time limit.
But does it cover the vice president? Anyway, Mr. Jeff, let's get to hear he's raising a very fundamental issue. Now, talking about the atmosphere, the environment, the avenue in which he declares as a current vice president running for presidency.
Well, the issue raised by my brother Tanko is an issue that virtually all Nigerians, all political office holders are guilty of. I can say that you see right away from the councillor to the president, all of them use the paraphernalia of their office to run their political parties and then also run for elections. It's an aberration.
And that is what
it doesn't happen in other climes. You see party meetings taking place in the villa. All those things are not things that are. So he raised a fundamental issue. But outside that, I think that the vice president is exercising his
right as a citizen.
And based on his personal convictions, he enunciated his views in terms of what informed the basis of his this.
Yeah.
So and it cannot be the first. In the past,
I was about to talk about precedents.
Yes, in the past we have had stories like in the southeast. We have SG Ikoku. He contested against his father Alvan Ikoku and even defeated the father. The father had to later bless him, and he went to to represent her. In the last instance, like we had in Kwara State, the Buki had to disagree with the father in terms of who he wanted and not the rest of them. So there could be such disagreements.
Yeah. Even though
because I can tell you, if I were the vice president, and in my own conviction, I believe that my benefactor or whoever it might be may not be the best for the country. My love of the country will not allow me to. And if I also feel that I have what it takes, because the problem of this country is something that is heartbreaking. So if he feels that he has a solution, he has a way with that to solve this problem, he has to make himself available to be able to do that.
Right. So some would say perhaps, there was a gap, or there was a failure of, attempts to see to the reconciliation, or to, there has been a lot of consultations, before his declaration. Some especially looking at the Southwest, is a region that is known for, resolving issues like this. Could it be, seen as a failure on the part of perhaps the elders or the leaders in the Southwest to bring together or to reconcile this?
No, the situation, the reason is basically this. There's no, if you are talking of morality, there is no candidate from Southwest Nigeria that can stand on a moral ground to come to contest for presidency of this country in 2023. The basic reason being that they know the Southwest is fully aware that there is zoning, whether in the APC or in the PDP and all the rest of them. And having the Southwest, having served 8 years as president, 8 years as vice president, does not stand on any moral ground to ask for her. So when you see people, I keep saying it, anybody who comes out today from the southern Nigeria to talk of southern presidency is being hypocritical.
Well, but the issue of zoning is neither here nor there, because even within the political parties, we're beginning to see.
Don't say it's neither here or there. It has been entrenched.
Might not be constitutional.
But
it's a gentleman arrangement.
It has been entrenched,
and it can be jettisoned at any point in time. There are precedents.
No, there's no political party. It's there in the party constitution.
Depending on the dynamics.
You are bound as party members to obey your party constitution.
Right. Talking about South, yes, some will say these are some of the things that may likely, work against the aspiration, if you like, of the vice president and any other one coming from the Southwest. The issue of, power shift, to the Southeast in particular. That has been the agitation now. But some will say South is South, whether it is Southwest, Southeast, or South-South. So long as you're taking it to the South, anybody can contest and so on and so forth. But he was talking about the fact that they've been on the saddle for this long. Do you see it as something that should be taken seriously?
No, at a point in time, I had come out and make a pronouncement on the issue of not legitimacy, but rather moral suasion, on the fact that for us to unite this country and make it one, considering the level of injustice that has happened to some of our brothers in the Southeast. And I have made pronounced statements, even in Oka, Anambra State, that yes, it is time for us, even when we are thinking about going south, we should think about going to a southeastern president. And I put a caveat on it. And my caveat is that our people in the South need to play politics to show that actually they belong to the larger
political
house.
Inclusion.
Yes, and they belong to the larger house. And then they should be able to reach out to other brothers and all. Their inability to do that will also open doors for their other brothers in the South and the Southwest if they pendulum is turning to southern Nigeria,
Right.
which of course will at least be a face saving for a united Nigeria as it is.
Right.
For me, for now, where I've been agitating, we've supported a northern candidate at a point in time. But quite honestly, at this point in time, it is very good for us to have a southern president with a strong northern vice president.
Yeah.
It will help to bridge in the gap, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
But here now, if you want to go specific as regard to whether Southwest or we are discussing about the vice president.
Yeah, and
for
just
me,
like I said, perhaps it has to do with the political, arrangement within the political parties.
Yes, which is not
We're beginning to
constitutional.
see that,
Which is not constitutional
manifesting.
background.
In the
Yes.
consultations, the alliances.
Even in the APC, they have announced that they have a zoning arrangement. And that zoning arrangement, that the whole positions, this present time that is in the north, should go to the south. And all the positions in the south should go to the... And based on that, they have already started with their national conventions and all whatnot. That was what produced the rotation from the national chairman from south to the north.
Okay.
But what I wanted to mention it with respect to the vice president
Yes.
is that in my mind and my own thinking, the only person from Southwest that will have a slight legitimacy, do you understand, to run for presidency, and we hinge it based on
Perhaps religion.
gentlemen, my fellow countrymen, I have having served you, like as he said, for 8 years as vice president. I've been to all the local governments. I know all the problems, So based on that, he could say, I step forward to make myself available to be used to change this.
Yeah.
But outside him, any other person from Southwest who comes to preach issue of political morality is standing already on a very immoral ground.
Well, talking about morality,
let's
let's look at, there are many other issues that we need to look at. Now, let's begin to look at the reactions. Yes, after a month of, whether he's going to contest or not, he has made it official. And now his benefactor, talking about Sojo Bola Ahmed Tinubu, shortly after his declaration, also assembled some, APC governors, and they had a meeting. Outside the meeting, he was asked, and the reaction, some would say, shows that the battle line perhaps had been drawn. He did say that he doesn't have, a son. So what are you seeing, beginning to manifest in terms of his relationship with his with his political mentor, and of course how that is going to play out in terms of the unity, especially of the zone. The southwest. In terms of the political strength.
Well, I have rightly said it, and I keep saying it. This is not the time for a Southwest candidate. In fact, I could go extreme to say, based on issues at a time in this country, in the whole country, it was almost like a consensus that the major, because of events of Abiola, they needed to assuage the Southwest. And they had to take the presidency, it was between Obasanjo and Olufalaye. And at the end of the day, head or tail, it was all Southwest affair. So many people are thinking, having, and then this time again, they've had vice president for 8 years. Many people are thinking.
But the question is, do you see a sort of confrontation or sort of division, among the political class, especially the South?
Well, let me tell you the thinking of a whole number of people. Do you understand?
Yes.
When people come out to run election, some of them, not because they want to run to win. Some of them use it as a bargaining chip. Maybe some people will still want to retain their portfolio as ministers. They will come out, make themselves available so that if they some will also want to. And there are also some people. There are so many schools of thought. Some people believe, even if they come out in the public to fight, So many people still believe that
They are united
That they are united somehow. That they are playing the same game, maybe in different wings, believing that one will say, even if it's not me, that will be okay. Allow me to nominate, or from amongst us, pick anybody, and then head or tail. Or
It's still back home, yeah.
So that is it. That is the well, people have their different strategies. So
well, okay, Dr. Nisa, looking at, I don't want to use the word cabal now, but the presidency also appeared to be divided, having two people coming from the same presidency contesting for the same position. President Muhammadu Buhari did say that he doesn't have a candidate, as it were, but then people know, he said he has, but then he didn't mention who the candidate
and he won't make it available.
Right. Okay. Now the vice president has declared. Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has also declared. And the same presidency. How are you looking at the calculations now? Some say the cabal or the presidency seems to be divided, perhaps along interests. How are you looking at the permutations?
Well, for me, before I go into your question, I wanted to differ a little bit from Jeff's position as regard to the vice president. We are talking about on a moral ground. I said it earlier on, both the president and vice president run a joint ticket. And he is the head of the economic team of Mr. President. Meaning that everything that goes into that particular presidency, good or bad, he inherited some. Whether there was good, no. Whether it's good, he goes with it. Whether it's bad, he goes with it. So when we are talking about the inflation rate from the time in which they took over from 9% to 33%, we're talking about unemployment rate from 33 to 20 something percent. We're talking about debt collection from 12 million to about 50 to about 50 plus imaginable 6 trillion naira. All of this one is attributed to this particular government. Though some people may argue that Mr. Vice President did extremely well when Mr. President was out. Yes, that is what it's supposed to be. If he performs very well, it goes to the credit of both of them. If he fails, so for me, there's a failure on this particular part, and so they cannot, in other way, detach themselves from each other.
But he's not actually detaching himself. He is talking about continuity, consolidation.
A very good question. What are we consolidating on? Are we consolidating on failure or achievement? As far as we are concerned now,
you define it as failure, but he doesn't see it as failure.
Many Nigerians, millions of Nigerians would define it as a failure. Because right now I'm sitting now, my family is in Kaduna. I cannot dare to go to Kaduna. If I want to go to Kaduna, if I'm fasting now, I have to double my rate of fasting to ensure that God secure me from here to get to Kaduna. If I am a Christian, I must also kneel down and then use my rosary to continue praying that I see the light of getting to Kaduna. Even those in Kaduna are not surviving as it were. So what is the moral justification for anybody who have been in saddle of leadership for completely 7 to 8 years and he wants to continue on that particular trajectory of the failure that we've already achieved? What is the achievement? What is the level of that in which you want to go on? And riding on the fact that you have raised an issue as regard to 2 of them or 3 of them running, that of course shows you the level of failure of that particular government. Because if they have succeeded as a country and as a government, majority of them wouldn't be running helter-skelter to unseat the president who was sitting. Many of them are already running helter-skelter.
But isn't it normal, for a president to have his successors within his cabinet?
If the presidency is a successful one and they are listening to the voice of Mr. President at his where, none of them will have raised his head. Mr. President will have put them together just as he succeeded in making sure that he pinned them down to accept a chairman of the political party. That one, of course, was based on the interest. It's not based on credibility, because there was a warning being sent to them that, look, gentlemen, all of you are going to be arrested. If you let this power go, you will be arrested. So it's better for you to calm down.
I don't want us to go into something we cannot substantiate.
We can.
Yes, but then, let's stay with the
fact that it's available on the street and the newspaper that you can read.
Let's stay with the issues.
This is time for us to say the truth to the Nigerian people to know.
He's raising a fundamental question anyway. The fact that Mr. Vice President is leading the economic team, so to speak, and here we are with a declining economy, with an economy that is said to be in recession, and even though it is bouncing back, actually. Now, he's talking about moral justification. For someone who has been, heading this team, or who has been handling the economy and then it's retrogressing, and also telling Nigerians that it's going to consolidate. How are you looking at this issue?
When you talk about presidency, I laughed. The same way I laughed was when the former SGF was asked a question that is it true he received a query from the presidencies? That's the man who cut grass.
Babachir.
He said, who is the presidency? Where is the presidency? So, actually,
is that statement alluding to what you want? Maybe there is nobody in charge, or is that what you're trying to say?
That was the exact words of Babash Lawa. He said, who is the presidency? Where is the presidency? So, in the same vein, you can see we have never really had a presidency as such. This current government has been known for is that there are cabals. And even the wife of the president came up publicly and said there's a cabal.
So who are these cabals? And then in every government, they will tell you that there are people they call the kitchen cabinet.
Cabals are concentric circles of conspirators. People, this group will conspire, the other group will conspire, the other group will conspire. Even to
does the existence shows that nobody is.
You saw the public out of the governor of Kaduna State, Nasru. When they wanted to change. In fact, when they went to bring Bunu back, he almost threatened, thunder and brimstone, that because they had already packaged that Bunu will go out and that this current national chairman, should come in and all the rest. So when they wanted to change that, he went haywire. So you can see that it's all concentric circle of conspirators here and there.
But if I understand, the position of Dr. Yunusa Tanko, though he talked about the economy, but beyond even the economy, in the 12-point agenda or promises that were made by the Vice President, you could see, an attempt to tinker with the current formula, perhaps rejig the economy. He was talking about creating an enabling environment for business. He was talking about revolutionizing agriculture and making it mechanized. He was talking about, particularly talking about security. He did say that.
I saw the vice president.
Yes, he's talking about.
I saw the vice president. If you read that, his this thing. I saw the vice president in the most difficult situation. The very difficult situation he found himself.
What's difficult about it? He's still a member of the cabinet. He is number 2 in the hierarchy of the government.
He found himself in a very difficult situation. In the difficult situation he finds himself is that I'm sure he's aware that the government he's part of, before Nigerians had a beast manifold in all sectors. Do you understand?
But is it a one-man's team? We're talking about.
No. I said the government.
Okay.
I didn't say. I didn't blame. I didn't put the blame on any particular individual. But knowing fully well that there's a doctrine of vicarious liability.
So literally, you are also agreeing that he's part of the failure. Is that what you're saying?
Of course. Now, can he extricate himself from it? He definitely cannot. And you see him in great difficulty. In great difficulty, like he did talk. One of the days they say he will take agriculture to the next level where there will be
talking about mechanization and value addition.
So you can see from his speech, you can see admission of failure, but he doesn't want to publicly say that them as government have failed. But that
unlike perhaps Amechi, who made it clear that in his own case he did mention that there were serious failures in the area of security, in the areas of he mentioned those areas that then the government he think has failed. So he was being categorical. But in this case, the vice president was being
the vice president is a lawyer. He's a man of words, and he was only being diplomatic. He was just diplomacy.
Okay.
Was just diplomacy.
Being diplomatic. diplomatic, but Nigerians are watching. I also follow you with keen interest. So it's about time we take a break. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics, and it's reaching you live from Trust TV here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And we'll be looking at the entrance, of Vice President Osinbajo into the presidential race, and of course, what it portends or what it means, or how it will change, the political dynamics of the country. And I've been discussing this with Jeff Ojinika and Dr. Yunus Tanko. Together we'll be looking at the issues very closely. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll look again very closely to some of those promises made and perhaps look at, going forward, how this contest will look like with these gladiators throwing their hats in the ring. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics, and it's reaching you live from Trust TV here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And today we're looking at the declaration by Vice President Osinbajo to run for the presidency, that is the #1 seat of this country, talking about the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under the platform of the APC. And we're looking at the issues alongside Jeff Ojinika and Yunus Tanko. Dr. Yunus, shortly before before we went on that break, Jeff is actually looking at the message, trying to deduct, and then looking at the messenger, what it's trying to put forward to Nigerians. Some will say either way, Nigerians are also decoding these messages. Some are beginning to react even. I've seen, a couple of reactions on the social media where some are like, okay, Vice President want to consolidate. He wants to continue with this, continue with that, continue with this. And then they're looking at it. If that is what is happening, what will be the future? So I don't know how you're looking at this.
I have said it earlier on that Mr. President is being hypocritical with facts. If he
isn't that too harsh?
No.
Is it hypocritical or economical?
Let me say this. No matter how you try to colorize it, you are just trying to garnish it.
Deodorize it.
And give it another. But this is a fact on the matter. You are running with me. When I was out of office, you were able to do, within a short period of time, do extremely well, and everybody noticed it, even including me. I made statements alluding to the fact that Mr. President took charge and how it's supposed to be. Now, the question you want to ask Mr. Vice President is that, why is it that when his own president is available, he cannot give him the advice to do the right thing? And when he has the opportunity as the chief in charge of the economic team, all of these beautiful ideas that he's putting on ground to tell Nigerians that he wants to do, why couldn't he implement it? That is why I term it as hypocritical. It's either he was holding it back, he's not giving it out as a good advice to Mr. President, or rather, he was afraid of bringing it out so that probably he will not be unseated as Vice President.
But if you look at his statement, he did mention that he was made, the team lead for the economic team, But then, whatever recommendations they have has to go to the president for implementation. So in this case, he doesn't have, it is not under his purview to implement some of those recommendations.
I know.
So how would you?
I know. Mostly people even call the vice president of deputy governor as spare tires. Of course, I know. But you see, for somebody who must have had an idea of an ambition in the future, he should have kept his track record as clean as possible. What I mean by this is that all of these beautiful ideas should have been made public. made it public as when you can. That these are some of the things that we've given as a suggestion. And if they don't carry issue, then you will know that you have already given it as a suggestion, as an idea. But none of it has come out for us to know. So that is where you now say that probably Mr. President, my president was keeping to his chest some of the things that he wants to do, and then making sure that Mr. President failed in his responsibility, not knowing that the failure of Mr. President is the failure of Mr. Vice President. And that is why we are holding him accountable now for that particular promises that both of them jointly made to the Nigerian people. They could not achieve it, but now he's asking that we should give in our own mandate to consolidate on the failures that they already done.
You call them failure, actually.
Of course,
but take for instance, he's talking about
it's not about the
rapidly enhancing
sharing money. It's not about that.
I'm coming. We'll look at the social intervention program.
Mentioning that.
We'll talk about the social intervention program. But here, if you said it's a total failure, he talks about radical advancement of infrastructure development, especially in power, roads, and railways. But everyone knows that this administration has done substantially well in terms of addressing the infrastructure gap in this country. So, if he wants to consolidate on that, would you call that failure?
Let me no. Before you go,
okay.
Right now we are here. Go and check your power source. Are we using generator or NEPA?
Well,
are we using generator? I'm asking you.
The question is directed.
You see, you're not. We are not being economical with the facts.
Not being.
We were here when they were telling us about the Mambila Plateau, Mambila Hydro Dam. Everybody was there. There was nothing in that particular place. For a government who had promised us right from the beginning that they are going to fight corruption to its own, where was that particular? There's nothing in that particular Mambila Plateau.
But they take credit for closing the infrastructure gap, especially the road, rail, and of course bridges across the country.
Consolidation of what they've already done before. People's way to do.
Yes,
that's the fact.
Okay.
At the risk of sounding very critical of the government, the perception out there, let me not just express my view, but I say, perception may be real and may not be real. If you get to Karanamada, or you get to Guzo, or you get to Katsina today and see the average person in the street and try to find out how this government has impacted on them in the last 8 years, I'm sure the response you get will not be different.
That's if you are not beaten.
The perception there, the perception, rightly or wrongly, is that this government has not kept to their promises. And not just keeping to their promises, but has performed abysmally low than they were expected. A lot of things were expected that they should have done.
But the Vice President is talking to Nigerians. Take, for instance, when he talks about completing the lifting of 100 million people out of poverty, for instance, he is talking to Nigerians. Some will say perhaps, the Vice President would have provided perhaps statistics as to how much they've lifted out of poverty so far. Nigerians will be able to. I don't know how.
But you know that nobody will believe the Vice President. You know why they will not believe him? People have seen. If you go and ask everything about airship, all these
empower,
trader money,
traders money,
it's very scandalous. In fact, I sympathize with the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. The perception out there is so bad. Do you understand? People...
But so much money is being expended. They're talking about even recently around 12 billion naira.
But it's not impacting. Nobody is feeling it. The other time they said they took 2 billion and went to one state and shared, and nobody could come out and say that they got... And today, the money they are using for school to feeding program is more than the whole money they're spending in education. In fact, I'm sure by the time this government leaves and by the grace of God another government comes in, the public trial on those their empowerment programs will be what happens in the petroleum subsidies scandal will be a child's play compared to what has happened, because a lot of money had gone down the drain, and at the end of it, if the money spent in the school feeding program was spent in education proper, we cannot be with ASU strike, we cannot be where we are today.
But Mr. Vice President is talking about ensuring that all Nigerians, go to school, if given the mandate. All Nigerians go to school, reforming the education sector,
you know that nobody will believe him. Nobody will believe him.
I don't understand. When you said nobody will believe him,
I can tell you that. You can go to bank with it. And why I say that is that.
But this is a man who is very serious passionate about leading Nigeria.
They have made such promises before. They have made such promises. In fact, he made such promises with the president. There were so many places where he represented the president during the campaign. In fact, there's a documentary today of all the promises that they made, and all of them they have been religiously. They have not kept to them religiously. They have failed in all the promises.
So what do you expect the vice president to have done? If actually these are promises made and not kept, for instance, as you put it, what do you expect the vice president to have done? Declaring to Nigerians at this moment, and of course, what hope would he have given Nigerians?
The hope he would have given Nigerians, there's what I would have expected the vice president to do, but it would have been very difficult for him to do it. It's the same way that Amechi tried to do, trying to now distance himself from because nobody bold enough to say. Nobody wants to identify with failure. Failure is an orphan. But if you have done exceedingly very well, success has a lot of extended relations and all whatnot. So the government that is part of, in the views of Nigerians, have not really done very, very well. That places him in a very great difficulty. And this difficulty now that you are in position to help to solve this problem, you will come up with the ideas. These views he expressed that their own is to do recommendation. Nigerians would have expected him to come up with those recommendations that he did that would have changed this situation.
That have not been implemented.
That were not implemented, that were not taken. Nigerians would have, it will not just be as stopping that we made our own just to recommend.
But wouldn't that amount to rubbish in the government he is in? Because he cannot despise the government that is also part of. Looking at that. Okay, let's look at the impact this will make, or rather, how it's going to change the political scenario. Now we're beginning to see, the big wigs, the gladiators, throwing their hats in the race. But I mean, the leader of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has declared. Now the vice president has declared. Rotimi Amechi has also declared, and several other persons, Okorocha and the rest of them. Now, ahead of the party primaries, some are beginning to, postulate or begin to look at do some sort of permutations as to how it's going to look like, at the convention or in terms of the primaries. The party has already has adopted consensus, so to speak. We've seen that happen during the convention, and some are like, if consensus will be adopted again, some people will scheme out. Perhaps I don't know how you're looking at.
Well, as far as I'm concerned. For us in the larger opposition, their destruction is our own gain. So we will encourage them to go.
That is if you are also united.
Yes.
Or if you are also...
We are consolidating. We are consolidating because the Nigerian people, what we have always been telling our people is that we either unite ourselves or allow Nigerians to choose from the best of the worst. That is the situation that will happen. And considering what is happening now, sometimes history, Nigerians forget things so fast. Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Osinbajo worked together. In fact, Osinbajo was the Attorney General
for 8 years.
For 8 years of Ahmed Tinubu. So whatever you want to accuse Ahmed Tinubu of, don't forget Osinbajo. Because everything...
And the success story too, they share.
Yes.
Because today if you're talking about success story in Lagos...
Every documentation of what transpired in that particular leadership is under the purview of the Attorney General of the state. So Osinbajo is so, we're expecting more drama. Now that he has already disowned him as his son. So we expect a lot of drama prior to the primaries, as the case may be. And this, of course, will make you to understand that is there a preferential treatment for a consensus candidate? From where? Who is making the consensus candidate? These are the fundamental questions.
You talked about the intervention of the president with regards to the leadership structure.
If I'm to make my own point.
Okay, I think let him land.
If Mr. President, of course, will be the deciding factor as regard to who, but you could see that there's a mad rush now to get the head of the governors. This one will grab them tomorrow in the morning. This one will get them in the evening. Some will get them in the middle of the night. All of them in the attempt in trying to get them to agree on a particular consensus candidate. Even though many people will have alluded to the fact that it is more undemocratic, but because the Electoral Act now has able to
it's an option.
Option has accepted it, then it now becomes
even political parties are beginning to adopt it. So when people were accusing the president of insisting that there should be options, I'm beginning to see political parties also adopting that because of the exigencies of the.
But of course, it's a destructive avenue for others. So for us, it's a good thing. Let them continue to challenge themselves and then pave way and give Nigerians the opportunity to take a clean slate so that we can have a better option, because as far as we are concerned, this particular leadership is a total failure.
I can make a postulation, based on events of the past. Nobody who had expressed very deep interest in being a president of this country had ever succeeded. In fact, the only person that has succeeded was it was at the fourth term was
President Buhari.
President Buhari. In fact, it came at the time he had given up.
He
had said that he will not contest anymore. In fact, when he lost in the last tribunal, he said he wasn't going to contest
2011.
So it was at that time that it was now possible for him to be pulled up to become a president.
But here we are with a person who has a lifelong ambition.
But Nigeria, let me tell you, the country is a wonderful country. The current chairman of APC, Abdullahi Adamu, said in one of the interviews that a month before the election,
he never thought
never thought. In fact, I flew with them from Kano to Abuja when they went for their reconciliatory meeting in Kaduna, in Kano, between the two factions. I was in the flight that brought them back. They never knew that he was going to be, but he was drafted. So anything could happen.
So in other words, it is not yet over until it is over.
No, it can never be over. Last minute, they can
it's even getting more interesting as
they can draft somebody who has never expressed any interest or whatever thing, and then possibly use the person as a consent.
Okay, let me get your last line.
My last line is this. I am troubled and disturbed. And why I'm disturbed is this. The bandits who abducted Nigerians on Kaduna to Abuja, Abuja to Kaduna, a train, make a statement. And that statement was that they were not interested in money that was given to them. Even though there was a confirmation that 100 million was given. But they said that the government knew exactly
it's a very
what they want.
serious issue.
This is a serious allegation on the government. They further released another video saying that these are the abductees in their presence. But they are asking Mr. President, look at the direct demand. They're not asking for representative. They are saying that Mr. President has failed in most of the promises that was made to them.
Well, we're waiting to something.
What they are saying is that it's troubling. It's troubling. They are saying that they want Mr. President to come to the negotiation table. That is unbelievably frontal.
But this is synonymous with terrorist agitations in most cases.
Not Mr. President alone, but to the Nigerian people, for our number one citizen to be directly accused or demanded for. That puts every one of us in danger. So we will advise that Mr. President should take this matter as a matter of serious urgency, because we are thinking about going to 2023 general elections. Because if these people could be frontal enough to challenge Mr. President,
challenging the sovereignty and challenging the legitimacy
of Nigeria,
the legitimacy of the
this
government.
is fundamental, and it must be dealt with as quickly as possible so that it can pave way for 2023 general election. Otherwise, we may end up not having an election. This is a warning from them.
There has been a series of these concerns with regards to, whether the election would actually take place. But then Nigerians are hopeful that all of this, Nigeria has had, some of these challenges before, and then we were able to overcome. 2015 was a case study.
No, we have never been in this mess like this before. The situation we find ourselves now, we have never been in this situation before. We have never been in a situation where the bandits have taken over the roads, taken over the rail, and taken over the airports. We have never, and taken over the seat of military operations in Nigeria, the Nigerian Defense Academy. It has never happened before. So the situation we find ourselves today is the type that, one, I suggest that there has to be a dialogue for this forthcoming election. Let there be a national dialogue. The other time, Jonathan tried to set up the National Constitutional Conference and all the rest of them. Whether that the report was used or not, but at least it helped in bringing down the tide. The situation right now is quite at a boiling point that there's a need for a dialogue. And once we have that national dialogue, how you want to, whether you want to do it online, whether you want to do it, but it is not something that you leave in the hands of political parties.
All right. Thank you very much. There is need for national dialogue. There is need to guarantee the safety of Nigerians. There is need to build the confidence of Nigerians towards 2023 elections. These are fundamental issues, and perhaps the authorities concerned have to look at. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking to us. Dr. Yunusa Tanko and
God bless Nigeria.
Jeff, amen. And Jeff Ojinaka, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
On their behalf and the technical crew, my name is Shafiu Suleiman. Do have yourself a wonderful evening ahead.